put a motor on one end, you're turning that rod, which drives the up and down movement on the elevator. Lead screw is specialized for the purpose of translating rotational motion into a linear motion. The mechanical advantage of lead screws is determined by the screw pitch or lead. In the kit, each of the last 3 years they had a lead screw that was probably about 14 inches diameter. Each of those had a slightly different pitch to them. Some of those I think were a quad lead, so it's a very aggressive pitch on it, allows very fast motion. And they've got a lubricant, a dry film lubricant on it, so it's trying to reduce the friction. Lead screw nut and screws mate with rubbing surfaces, so consequently they have a relatively high friction in comparison to the bearing surfaces that we were just talking about. Their efficiency is typically between 25% and 70%, and here again it comes back to if there's a dry film lubricant on it or something like that. The high internal friction means that the lead screw systems are usually not capable of continuous operating at high speed. You'll get some heat buildup in there. Here again, you need to design it for your application. Due to the inherently high stiction, which is a frictional force, typically it is self-locking, so it doesn't want a back drive on it. However, with those quad leads that we had in the kit last year, you hold it vertical, put the nut on the top of it, the nut will move down to the bottom. So we'll get into where that's good and where that's bad as we talk about motors here in just a second. One other thing on lead screws, you look at a lot of car jacks. The way that works is you've got a high mechanical advantage with a lead screw. You're turning it in order to raise up the jack. Okay? Motors and gearboxes. First is very selective on the types and quantities of motors used. Pay attention to the instructions, to the rules that you'll get on the first day. Last year they were more selective than previous years. They only identified like 7 different motors that you could use. I don't remember exactly, but there's a really limited number of motors. They'll tell you how many sim motors you can use. So pay attention to that. Be selective, pick the right motor for your application. And the second bullet kind of goes along those same lines. Most motors don't like to be driven to a stall. Stall means you drive it to where it stops and it holds there. For most of your motors, it's just building up heat and it's going to burn out fast doing that. So if you've got a drive arm where you need to hold it at a position, you need to pay attention to how you do the gearing in order to do that, or you use a stepper motor or something like that. A lot of the gearboxes that come with the kits, some of those have a worm gear drive or something like that that help avoid back drive, and you use the mechanical advantage to hold it there. Your window motors are the examples of that. Bainbot is a good source for planetary gearboxes, including sims, including 4 sims. 2 years ago, there were Bainbot planetary gearboxes that they provided as part of the kit of parts. Once they provided it, team started using it. They had some design flaws in it, so when you went to, or they set it up to where you'd send in and get a replacement set of parts to go in there that didn't have, where they eliminated those design flaws, but they're having a problem with them wearing out very quickly. Just be aware of that. But Bainbot as a source, been very pleased. You can get a wide selection of planetary gearboxes in that. Planetary gearbox. I don't have enough information here to go through, but what it is a outer gear, they call a sun gear, and the threads, I mean the gear teeth on that are facing inward instead of facing outward. So the gear are on the inside instead of the outside, and then you have a series of planet gears that ride around on the inside of that. So what it gives you is a very compact design for a gearbox. Really a neat design. So Bainbach's a good source for that. They have gearboxes that go with the globe motors and with a number of the different motors in the kits. Andy Mark is a good source for drive gearboxes. They've got 2-speed gearboxes as well. So if you really feel like having a challenge, go get a 2-speed gearbox. It gives you good torque capability at a slow speed on the base, plus it gives you a good fast high end. My recommendation is that if you're going to do a 2-speed gearbox, buy it early, go experiment with it, play with it, understand what you have to do in the way of code, what you need in the way of user interface, that type of stuff. I personally wouldn't do that if you're buying it at the start of the build season and you have to go figure out how to make that work in your 6 weeks. IFI sells additional sim motors. You can buy those through them. Last year the model number changed. How are we doing on time? Doing okay. But you can buy additional, I think usually 2 sim motors come with the kit. Many of the bases you'll find have 4 motors in their drive train. So